We're going to start. Everybody, thank you for coming. My name is Adam Myhill. I'm the head of cinematics for Unity. And we've got a lot to show. I'm going to tear through things pretty quickly. But before I do, I'm going to tailor this a little bit to you guys. So how many people here are using Unity now or have? Okay. Awesome. Okay, that's good. I'll go a little later on. I won't start in the super shallow end of the pool. We're in a really interesting time right now. There's a revolution that's happening. And I had to run here. This room is so far away from everything. It's like, okay. So what's happening is we're in this revolution, and it's not the first one that's happened. One of the earlier ones was music. And we built records, and things like Capitol Records existed. And then MP3s came out, and a computer company called Apple took over the music industry. And then there's a revolution with cameras. We used to shoot on film, and now we shoot in digital, and we shoot 8K. We have 21 stops at dynamic range. We're making creative decisions later into the process. And I've worked in film, and I was on a project, and the director said, "Oh man, just shoot wide. We're going to punch in and post." And as a cinematographer, that kind of breaks a part of your heart somewhere because you want to like control the frame. But this is what's happening. And this is Adam. It's a movie. You might have seen it. It's a 1.5 years old. And we built this to show the power of Unity's graphics. And I'm playing the movie, but you might have seen that I clicked an executable. And this is the movie. But it's running real time. We're rendering 30 frames a second. We're running on this laptop. And yes, this is an obnoxiously heavy laptop. The GeForce 1080. Fans are even spooling up right now, and I have to put something under it, otherwise it's going to melt through the table. I'm not even really kidding. It's like it's totally crazy. Let me just do this. And I'm going to stop this video. We're not going to watch the whole thing. And the smoke's still going. Because this is a persistent world. This is not stopping a movie frame. This is just not incrementing time on the camera and on the animations. But the VFX are still going. Now, I'm going to stop right here. So when I talked about the revolution of audio with MP3s, that's a revolution of convenience and distribution. You can go to your computer and download an MP3. When I talked about the revolution with cinematic cameras, that's one of convenience and delaying your decision-making steps. You can delay things later into the pipeline. And now what's happening is we're having a revolution in VFX. And render machines are going to go away. We're not going to do compositing and the very traditional linear process of layout, lock down cameras, do lighting, do animations, render it in layers, composite it. That's going to go away. I mean, that's a bold statement, and it's probably not going to go away like black and white film has not gone away, but that's not going to be the way that a lot of productions are going to be done. Because you can't do this. And you can't do this. So I'm making these creative decisions right now, and I'm not locked in this super long, I'm actually going to just show this slide. This is like from another thing. I'm just going to bounce over really quick. This is a really cute little slide, though. Look at this. That's a 3D production pipeline. Look how far away the idea is from the final output. I mean, like some of you are nodding. You're living or currently living or have lived in this world. And like amazing things have been created with this. But man, sometimes you just want to like move the camera. It's crazy. So this is the world we're in. It's super exciting. Now, we've only gotten here recently because, one, machines like this have got huge GPUs, and two, the game engine community has figured out how to make things look nice. And there is still a look delta. I mean, I can't, with a straight face, say that this video graphically compares to a room full of render machines taking an evening per frame. But we're rendering 30 in a second, so, I mean, it's not a level playing field. And it's getting really close. Like, this looks pretty good. Like, sometimes it's like, it's amazing. Like, we're reaching photorealism in some areas. But then we can do stuff like this. The director can walk up and go, you know, man, I want the shadows to fall, you know, over this way. Cool, we're done. No, let's frame it like this. What? You get it. So this is the power that affords. And this is really exciting. And, you know, I work for Unity, and we believe we've got some tools which are very unique in this space. And I'm going to show you that stuff right now. Actually, got one more spot to show. Look at this scene. You hit stop, and like all the bugs are floating around, and the wind is blowing through the grass. But I don't like the lighting. I want the God rays to come over from this side. And everybody's working together, and everybody's seeing everything together. And like people at Pixar have my absolute highest, like, I respect the creativity of these amazing studios. But what I don't understand is, if you want a guy to walk from inside the shadow to walk outside of the shadow, how much planning that must take on their behalf, you know? Like, because we're going to get the lighting down, we're going to do the animation, because all these things are sort of being worked on separately. And I mean, they must look at this stuff and go, wow, that's a different way of working. And this is a different way of working. So I'm going to show that. Like, that's real time. So, okay, so look at this. We're going to go, I'm not going to show that. I'm going to go into Unity. So this is Unity. Oops, I'm giving away something. Don't look over here. That's for later. So we have this thing called the Asset Store, and it's this huge community where we ourselves make stuff, and people can make things, and you can put a model up and sell it for $45, and people run a business. And we put all the Atom assets up on the Asset Store. And here they are. And on the flight over here, I downloaded the world, which is right here. And I downloaded the characters, which are here. And I'm not kidding. I did this on the plane over here. So what do we got? This is Timeline. And I'm going to do something really simple. I'm going to start out in the super shallow end of the pool, because we built this thing. We actually built it 3 times. The first time we realized it wasn't large enough in scope, and the second time for other reasons, I can't remember what that was. And then the third time, it's built to be completely open. And it's not a cutscene tool. Yes, it's a storytelling tool, but it's an orchestration of stuff in your Unity scene tool. And it's super easy to use. And I'm going to just show you a bit of that. Like, let's just make something here, like a good old cube. You guys ever see a demo with a cube before? Cubes on spheres. And then, so I got this thing in the world. And then I'm just going to drag it into Timeline. And go, I want to animate it. I'm going to hit record. I'm going to move it. I'm going to go somewhere else. I'm going to move it. And stop hitting record. And we leave keyframes. And I've now got an animated cube in the world. And you can do this with anything. And like, this isn't a big deal. Like, we're at Siggraph, and I'm showing animating a cube. Like, what's going? This is, I mean, this is not amazing. But what we do think is amazing is how easy it is to orchestrate your environments. And VR is a story about space, right? Like, cinematics is a story about, you know, camera and human performances, and VR is about space. So here you can bring things in the world and animate them in a really easy way, and you can orchestrate your spaces, and you can trigger timelines to happen when you walk into a trigger volume or through a game event, and you'd have multiple timelines running. And I'm going to show you how all that gets really interesting. But first, I'm just going to delete this. We've been working on something. I've been working on in games. I was at EA for like 15 years, and I was really frustrated that there were no tools. There's no camera tools. Keyframing, cool. Well, what if an animation changes, or how do I do game cameras? So 10 years ago, I started down this questionable path of trying to make smart camera tools. And I realized that the whole system was broken. We forward animate cameras. So you keyframe them, and they don't know what they're looking at. So then that thing moves, and the cameras don't know. And I'd do a shot, get a whole cutscene sequence done on Friday. An animator would come in on the weekend, change an animation. I load it up on Monday morning, and the camera's looking at blue sky, character somewhere else. I mean, you might find that funny, but it happens, and then you slowly die inside because it's like just work thrown out of the window. And I realized that that's a backwards way of working. So like inverse kinematics, I wanted to make a camera system that was smart and actually knew about what was happening. So I built this thing called Cinemachine, and here it is. And these are Cinemachine clips. And what you do is you pick a shot, and you say what you want to look at. Right now I'm looking at his neck over here. And then you say how you'd like to compose it. And then when that thing moves, the camera moves. Now I'm hard pinning it onto his neck. It doesn't have to be his neck, it could be anything. Let's look at his eye. I heard someone say, what? I don't understand. So I'm going to do a better job. Did somebody say that? Okay, so we're looking at his neck. Let's look at his right eye. Dink. So now when these guys move, the camera's following. And you can just change your composition. You can put whatever lens on it. And like, yeah, but that's like pretty crappy camera motion. And it is. So then we said, well, we need to have some damping. And why do we need to do this? Think of all the content that you've consumed through a lens. We all have. We watched a lot of TV and movies. Cameras have weight. Cameras have a behavior to them. And every one of you in this room has a good subconscious understanding about what a camera can do and can't do. So when you watch a video game and a camera goes tink and stops suddenly, some part of you in your body goes, I don't believe that. Because you've never seen that in a movie. Because you can't do it. Because the camera weighs 50 pounds or whatever. So we started working on blending math. And you can see now the camera's playing this little bit of catch up. And I can open these areas up and say, I want to disregard. Can you see that on the screen? There's this like little gap here. I'm going to disregard all the motion that's inside that. But when it hits the little blue line, we now start to use the dampening. I can just put this over here. And then you can move this like this. And I want to only look at horizontal motion, but I want to disregard vertical motion. And you can start to do some kind of crazy things. Then here's another shot. This is, it's like a camera's on a tripod. We're tracking his neck, and he walks by. This would actually be kind of tricky to animate. I mean, you could put a look at target in the inside the hierarchy of the character, or do some kind of constraint. But we just say, just look at his neck. This is a track shot. There's no animation on it. The camera's moving, and the camera's animating, of course. But I'm not animating it. When you see kind of jump like that, I'm not in play mode. I'm just in edit mode. Oh, just as a side note, everything you do in Cinemachine works in edit mode, or like 98% of it. And then when you're in play mode, everything you do gets saved. Because I don't like for the Unity people here, you do something in play mode and it gets lost. I'm not a fan of that, so we made it work both ways. So really relax the difference between play and edit mode. In fact, right now you see procedural noise on the camera, and the game's not running. So we made that run in edit mode too. I just want everything to work all the time, everywhere, and this play, I mean, Unity probably doesn't want me to say that I don't like that part, but that part is frustrating as a content creator because you need to see everything in context. So with this track shot, I'm saying follow this guy. Oh no, this one. Follow his neck bone. Here's how I want to compose. Every camera has a multi-layer Perlin noise system on it. For position and orientation, I've created 3 different groups, a low frequency, a mid frequency, and a high frequency, blending them together. I mean, it's not, I could tune these numbers. I just sort of did this quickly. And then we've got this override control, so I can like crank the amplitude up and go crazy on the frequency. That's really bad. You see where that's going. I'll tone it down. And on the body, and we've organized Cinemachine to be very camera-like. We have the body, which is the body of the camera, and we've got the aim, which is where you're looking. And we've decoupled translations from rotations for a number of reasons. And on this body, We get different types. This is an orbital transposer. And we're saying, look, we want to follow this dude, but we want to follow it, you know, this far away, whatever. And as he moves around, wherever he is in the world, the camera's going to be 3.23 meters behind him. And this high. And we want this damping. So we have a little Z damping, like you could see as they walk. The camera kind of lags behind. I could turn the Z damping down, Z axis. Now the camera's like hard pinned to him. We've obsessed about the number of controls in here. Like we've just really lucky. Gregory Labute, who's my partner, he's in Montreal right now. We work together. We just do this stuff all day, making camera tech, and it's kind of the most amazing job ever for somebody who likes doing this stuff. So look at this. Okay, we got this track shot. I'm getting off on a tangent. So I'm going to show you something interesting that we get for free with Timeline. So let's look at this again. Tripod shot, tracking his neck. Walks by, and then we have this cut. Oh, those two weren't butted up. We saw a little there. So that's a really nasty cut, and that's terrible cinematography, and that doesn't work. But this is a track shot. These are totally different camera types. So what if I do this? So I'm just going to pull this back, see where do I want to go to. Here. So what if I do this? And I overlap those. I'm going to just drag this out a bit more. See this? We're overlapped. What do you think is going to happen? Quiz for the class. What's going to happen there? Yeah, it's a transition. But not the kind you might expect. We take all that math that's happening, and we blend from the track shot into the follow shot. Yeah, that part's fun. This gets addictive because you've now told the cameras what to do. And I mean, we start with this. Oh, I turned the dampening way down. Let me just crank this up. We got this all crazy. So we got the wide shot, and they walk past the camera, and then we got the close shot. And the director says, why don't we start with this shot? Why don't we move this one over here? So I'm not dragging camera animations around. I'm dragging camera ideas around. Now we start with the shot. Oh, it's got lousy composition, so let's just fix that. And then we cut to the next one. And these guys are in a different spot. And it doesn't matter, because you've told the camera what to do. So that's fun. But it gets crazier. Look, just mute, M button, mute, show high tracks. So look at this other idea here. Now, if you like the blend, wait to this one. So this is a feature that is, all this is in 2017.1. You can download it all right now. This is something that we're calling clear shot, and we're doing shot evaluation. So we're looking at what's inside the shot, and we're seeing how good it is. And that sounds crazy, and it's a little bit crazy. So one long clip. We've got this clear shot. And you can see here we got 3 cameras. And I don't know if you can see it here. I'll read it out. First one's got a priority of 20, then 15, then 10. So I really want this camera to play. But if this one's no good, then the next one will do. And if that one's no good, then the next one will do. So right now, camera 1's got a pretty good shot. We're going to open it up. I want to target his neck. That's not very good composition. And things are looking good. But let's actually have a look here. We have this nefarious wall here. Here's the camera. You can even like move this around. Oh yeah, I didn't actually show that back before. Look at this. It works in both directions. So you can change the camera and it'll still keep the composition. Okay, so there's a wall here. I sense peril. So I'll turn this off. Watch this. We're using the shot. I'm not touching it, obviously. As soon as that shot's no good, oh, I had this set to the wrong thing. Cut. You can blend. Let's show this, but not a bad. I'm going to set it to cut. We want it to cut. As soon as the shot's no good, we will cut to the next best shot. And as soon as that shot's not good, we'll cut to the next best. And this is the beginning of procedural cinematography. And what this lets you do is imagine you have a replay, you're shooting something of a variable scenario. what you can do is you can throw cameras into your scene, have them all over the place, turn on the shot evaluation, prioritize them, play your game, and a movie is tumbling out of the game while you're playing it, you're never getting a bad shot. So if something's in the way, now you see like 2 little cuts happen there pretty quickly. We've got controls for a minimum duration. Like, look, a camera's got to be at least 2 seconds. And it works in both directions. Like, I'm going to take this wall, and look, camera's cutting. Doot, doot. Or you can grab the camera. And again, we're not in play mode. This is edit mode. It works in play mode, obviously, too. But I want it all to work in edit mode. Look at this. You can just take this. I'll just make this a bit bigger. The camera's doing that. And the way it works is we're actually making sure that you get the subject in. So look at this. If I go over top of the wall, we're good. That shot's still valid. I could even change the composition. And as long as my composition, as long as I can see that bone, it's okay. But the second I can't, cut to new guy. So we think this is going to be really interesting for people to, you can think of a bunch of different applications, but like, you want to make cutscenes that are of a variable scenario. Or like, let's say you've got a player intro and you want to do a different take on it each time. You don't want to like author 50 different intros. You just want to do one and have a bunch of, a handful of cameras. We've got this randomize button, which is right here, randomized choice. And what that does is that if 2 cameras are valid, it'll just randomly pick one. So then what you can do is you can start to have multiple ones of these. You can have a clear shot, and this is all like shot number 1, and then shot number 2 is a wide, and shot number 3 is a push in on your hero character. And you put a couple cameras or a few cameras each one, hit random, you've now got a different intro every time, but it's within a theme, right? Because you've chosen your cameras accordingly. Okay, so we're going to move on. So we've got this thing called Dolly Track. This is new. And the way that this works is, it's like a film set. You just put down Dolly Track. And I'm going to show you a bunch right here. And we even made it look like a Dolly Track because we're nerds. And we got nice spline controls. And you can change the shape. You can see right here the camera's on here. And we're getting the shot of the guy. Now, this is really no big deal. It's just putting a camera down the spline, right? Like, who cares? But it's more than that, because we got this control, auto dolly. What auto dolly does is you tell it what to follow, and I'm saying follow the guy, and then as he walks down, the camera automatically gets pulled down the track. And you'd say, yes, but I want to look slightly from the front. I'm like, cool. We got an offset. We'll just offset it on Z. Now you can look down the front a little bit, right on the back. Got a little bit too much damping on here. I'll just turn that off for now. And as the camera goes down, now this obviously works in play mode, but what's cool about this in play mode is that we save everything. So imagine you're doing a game that's a trough-based game, and you want the camera to follow a path and to follow the character, and you're 2/3 of the way through the level, and you're just like, no, I want to change this thing. This has to get further away here. You just change it, and it gets further away. And you want to go lower here, or at the end, you want to like, crane up and go overhead, and you just work on it all. And the spirit of all this is, and it sounds corny, but I really do mean it, is like we build this stuff so you guys can spend your time on the creative problems. Like, how are we going to shoot this? What's the best shot? How do we reinforce gameplay? How do we be good storytellers, make good game cutscenes, instead of like, how do we actually make the camera do this? I want you to be able to works in play mode, works in edit mode, mix and match your ideas, go crazy, work out your creative problems, and not worry about like farting around with like writing a big ball of code camera. So you can also animate the camera down the dolly. So in Timeline, here's another dolly track. I'll just make this big so you can see. It starts like way up here, and it snakes down, comes down here, and goes around the corner. And the camera is animated down the dolly I haven't turned auto dolly on. And it's just animated with this curve. You can just see Cinemachine track dolly path, and it's just this curve. And this curve pushes the camera down the dolly. This is a little bit more old school, you know, it's not auto, it's, you have more control. So let's look at what that's doing. So we've got this stuff, and we want to do this like huge crane in from the clouds, push in on this guy, we're targeting his face. But then the composition's lousy. But I actually like the composition at the start. So watch this. I'm actually just gonna do this. So I just hit record. Actually, I clip the camera, hit record, pick a composition. Go to about here, pick a composition. Go to here, set a composition up. Here we want to like kind of center punch it. And he walks away, roll credits. I don't know, we'll like crane up to look at the credits or something. We're animating the camera with timeline down the dolly path. We're using timeline to keyframe composition. We're dynamically targeting its head. And if anyone is a camera artist in the audience doing this with normal keyframes, how long would that take? 4 hours. I said, yeah, that's probably about right. So you can start to kind of blend the worlds. Like you're using procedural cameras, you know, in bits and pieces. I want to do the procedural targeting, but I want to keyframe my compositions. And then I want to keyframe my, oh, and let's, I don't know, you get this. Like, you can just see, like, it's just really simple keyframes, like composer screen space Y and screen space X. And yeah, so that's a really interesting way of working. And I'm curious to see what people come up with that, because it's just really fast to block in those kinds of shots. So the next bit is this. We spent a long time like putting all these, and we get these different ideas, right? We've got timeline, we've got Cinemachine, and I'm going to show you the post-processing stack. And these guys are, it's done out of the Unity in France and in Brighton, really awesome guys. And if you haven't seen it, it's pretty awesome. It's world-class color grading tools right in Unity, and they live on the shot. You can put them anywhere, but that's a proper waveform monitor. And this is where we have all the stuff like the ambient occlusion. You can just turn this up a little bit. And our anti-aliasing. Screen space reflections, I'll show that on a different shot. Depth of field. I mean, like, let's blur the background out some more. Motion blur, adaptation, bloom. You know, kind of the usual suspects, but this is the bit that I want you guys to take away. This is, it's very much like DaVinci Resolve in a way. We're inspired by that fantastic product. And we've got really, really powerful controls in here. So like, look at this, hue versus saturation. So I'm gonna just throw some keys in here, and I'm gonna show you what this does. I mean, there's so many great tools in here. But look at this. So I'm putting some keys down, and I'm isolating blue, because I just want to take the saturation out of the blues. Or, you know, when Adam walks away, and let's just fix that composition here. Just hit record, click the clip, turn the guides on. Let's just do that shot instead. Oh, turn off record. Oh, actually keyframe the show guides on. Turn that off. We do keyframe everything. Okay, so look at this. So we go back to the color grading. And on that hue versus hue, watch this. I'm going to separate the reds. Here's the reds. Maybe tighten that up just a little bit. And I want to desaturate the reds. Or, I mean, hue versus hue, we can do silly things. Like, what color would you like his pants to be? I'm going to isolate the reds again. And you get where this is going. For anyone who's used, like, professional color grading tools, they're here. But what's the crazy bit is it's not just like, okay, cool, we got color grading. Let's put some more cool in the shadows, and let's put some more warm in the lights, and, you know, go crazy. Is that this lives on the shot. And, like, we're doing this all together. So if I go back to this scene, and I'm going to butcher it, but bear with me. On this shot, I mean, who doesn't love dirty lens effects? It's like the lens flare for this generation. We're going to make Battlefield right here. Okay. More dirty lens. No, good. Thank you, whoever said no. That's the right answer. And this post-processing stack lives right here. So when we cut here, you know, like, what do you want to do? Make his pants blue. And I'm going to, again, butcher this. And look at this way of working. Like, okay, now we're color grading. Oh, no, we're going to fix the composition. Oh, no, we're going to widen the lens. Okay, no, let's put that shot over here. I want to go with this shot over there. We're going to do the reverse shot there. The pants aren't red enough. Let's hue versus saturation. Pants are 2. Let's make his pants really crazy, and they're orange. We want to make them red. I mean, I'm doing silly things. But what I want you to take away from this is color grading, procedural cameras, timeline. Like, these are 3 different features that have come together to make this like really fast, awesome work environment that you can just like, well, we hope you crank out some really beautiful things with it. Okay, so I'm going to go to another demo. We worked with this. Oh, how's the internet here? It happens, you know, every time. Like you go do. I really hope this comes back. We worked with this Lionel. His name is Lionel, and he did a game called Ghost of a Tale. And I'm trying to load it right now. So where I was going with this, Ghost of a Tale. So it's like one guy built this game, and he very graciously lent us some assets. This scene doesn't have the world in it, but it's this little mouse. It's this cute little guy. And I'm going to show some of the in-game camera tool systems that we've been doing. Cinemachine was originally an in-game camera system that kind of branched out to do cinematics. So, but that's where its roots are. So look at this. So I'm going to hit play. I'm going to turn this on. So this is a free look system. Orbit cameras in games are hard to do. Hard to make them do anything just than a simple orbit. So what we've got here is the Cinemachine free look system, and the lines are kind of faint, but you'll see that there's 3 rings. There's a bottom one, a middle one, and a top one. And how it works is you define the camera properties at each stage. So we set the camera up how we'd like it to be at the bottom. And then we map it to the controller so you can spin around. And then we set what we would like the camera to be in the middle, and then what we'd like to do at the top. So example, I'm going to make the top one. Here's the top camera. Let's go higher. And this is all working. All this stuff saves in play mode. And the bottom one, I mean, I don't know. Let's go with a tighter lens. Field of view, tighter. And I'm actually going to, I don't know, maybe just look up a little bit more. Oh, that's mid rig, bottom rig. Aim. Okay. So that's cool. So now you got your little guy and you're, oh geez, I went way too high on that. Let me just fix that. Aim. So let me just do this really quick. So something that's really tricky, it's been like it's hard to do in games, is when you want to actually make your, wow, I really did something crazy here. Let me just do this again. It's when you want to make cameras and animations talk to each other. So like it often involves sitting with a programmer and like, okay, hey, we want a camera to do this on this animation. And you need to make a real plan for it, and it's kind of cumbersome. So this feature is something that's going to save you a lot of time. Okay, so here we go. I'm just going to go back in. And we're going to see that, yeah, shut this down. So we got this camera. Okay. So he runs around, and we've got our third-person action adventure camera on it. There's controls for how it recenters and how it comes back. But we've got these different animation states. And let's say we want to do, like, Gears of War, when they do a roadie run, the camera gets low and it shakes. Or let's say we want to do a completely different camera behavior based on different animations. Well, that's actually quite straightforward to do because we have this thing called the state-driven camera. And what the state-driven camera does is it lets you link cameras up with animations. So look at this. We scrub the entire game of all the different animation states. These are all the animation states that are in the game. Running, walking, jumping, whatever. And then these are all the different cameras in the game. And then we want to wait or have a minimum time. And then these are the blends. So when I go from free look 1 to free look sneak, I want to do an ease in and ease out or a cut or whatever, and I want to take 1 second. So I've made another camera here called free look sneak. You can't see it because it's not active right now. But we've added this little button called solo. It's like a mixing board. Like the solo button on a mixing board? You want to solo a track. So let's solo this camera. Now, this camera's kind of crazy, and I'm doing this to show it off. There's a bunch of noise on here, and I'm going to crank this noise up just for giggles, just to show this effect. So we've got noise on each layer of camera, and I'm going to just, this is the middle one. And that's, which one's that one? That one's the top rig. I'm going to do the middle rig, body noise. We'll just crank this up some more. And then the bottom one. And this is ridiculous. I'm super going way too far, but I just want to make a point. Not so much the amplitude. Let's set that to 1, but crank the frequency up. So watch this. So we now have super shaky camera. So I'm going to turn this solo off. Okay, and we're back here. Now when I go into sneak mode, we blend to super shaky crazy camera. Now this is ridiculous, and you'd never do this camera. But while the game is running, I'm linking cameras and animations. And the ability to go, hey, what would it look like to try this shot? Or, hey, you know what? I don't want to do that one. When I hit the button, I want to do a POV shot. I've got this POV camera here. Well, look at this. When I go into sneak mode, play this one. And when I go from any camera to the POV camera, I want to do a cut. So now when I hit this, I do this, I'm cutting, and I'm now in a POV shot. You can see, I'll just come back and select this guy. And I hit this, and you can see that the camera is now stuck to his face. It's now a POV shot. And without writing code, while the game's running, we're linking cameras and animations. I worked on a game that it didn't get released. It was at EA, and it was a brawler, third-person action adventure. We had 21 free look systems just for the player's locomotion. So when you walk, it's a certain free look system. When you run, we put a bit of noise in it. When you go outside, it pulled back. When you go inside, it came close. When 5 enemies pulled up, it did something else. 21 different cameras. And that sounds expensive and that sounds crazy, but it wasn't. Well, it was a bit crazy, but it wasn't expensive. And what it let you do is it let you craft these really, really sophisticated camera behaviors based on whatever's happening in game. So over here, I have this little trigger volume. And this trigger volume triggers a timeline. So the little mouse goes in there. We're going to play this timeline. And that timeline has these clips. You can see that there's some Cinemachine clips in here. So let's see what happens. Just going to run over here. What I'd like you to take away from this is the ability to mark up your world with trigger volumes, and then to have them call timelines. And timelines are just they're just world animation things. You can put anything in them. And you can really add a lot of richness to your world. Your character enters a trigger volume, and doors open, things happen, events happen. Or in this case, crazy camera things happen. So watch this. I'm going to go right into this. triggers that, plays timeline, camera blends. We've now turned the game into a side scroller. And the camera is now following this path. And you can see now we blend in, we're doing like a little tighter composition. We come back, we're blending between all of those, and then we blend back to the gameplay camera. So without writing any code, without really doing that much work, I mean, when you think about it, the camera defines game genre, right? Like pick a game genre, first-person shooter, third-person action adventure, side-scroller, top-down, isometric. Those are all camera definitions. That's a pretty geeky point, but it's true. And I love it. So imagine how, like, I don't know what games you're building, but imagine being able to mark up the world. And, you know, the difference between like a good game and a great game is often just camera work. I have this really obnoxious slide that I put at the end of almost all my presentations. I won't show you this one today, but it's got this like big funnel, and it's like every pixel, every emotion, every shader, everything goes through like 8 camera floats. Like the camera is the window, you know, minus VR, the camera is the window to how people are viewing this stuff. So really powerful camera tools can make a huge difference to your game. And I want you guys to be able to make stuff and experiment with ideas without having to code things, without building a giant ball of code camera, without being able to, you know, experiment and make mistakes and try out wacky ideas. So I got one more thing. Okay, let me just hide this. Actually, I'm going to bounce back to the other scene. We don't have too much longer, so I think I'm going to go into questions now. Are there any questions? Yes.
Wondering if you have quite a bad idea yet. Thank you. So this seems to be some pretty cool tools to get some like amazing camera work done pretty fast. So
yeah.
The question is, do you also like, or did you maybe already made a prototype for like a round trip back in like a non-real-time production tool like Maya or something, so you can play with the camera in Unity, set everything up, play with the actors, and make something bigger or whatever, and you just export it again and then render it?
Fantastic question. We're working very actively on that. So we've been spending our time, we have a group at Unity called the DCC team, which stands for Digital Content Creator, you know, like Maya, Max, those kinds of things. And we are working really heavily on our FBX file format. It works right now. We just keep adding more and more to it all the time. So you can bring anything into Unity. And we want to make it so your favorite content creation tool is in bed with Unity. It's just like one button, get it in, and it's painless. The backend, yes, I know that's going to make people. It's working now. It's actually try 2017.1. We've got some things there. Actually, can you switch over to my slide because I want to show one more thing. It's a little present for you. Thank you for coming. That project that I just showed you is gone. You missed it. That was over. So take a photo of that. That's the project. It's on Google Drive right now. You need 2017.1. That's free for the personal edition. It's 4.5 gigs, so be forewarned. It's like the Atom assets are huge, but it's literally this project, and you just open timelines and you pick a timeline, and there it is. And you open it up and you just hit M. And you can like play around with stuff. And then I've got all the different ideas like ClearShot, all in these nested folders. So you can open this one and just hit M. Timeline sorts from the bottom up. And there's some animation packages that do that. And the person who works at Unity that decide that used to work on one of the animation packages that did that. So if you have a clip below, it reads from the bottom up. Soon we're going to have a toggle so you can set it to be bottom up or top down, like more non-linear editing tools. So choice is yours. But just so you know, be forewarned. So, I mean, in this case, with these two clips, the bottom one is going to win. So, yes, for those who missed it, get that. And then I give out demos and show examples and have a work-related Twitter that keeps you updated on all the Cinemachine stuff. So if you want to stay in tune, you can do that. I didn't actually finish the question on the back end. So we're working on FBX output. And the round-trip story is something that we are really keen on telling. And you'll be able to do cameras animation, anything in Unity, output, think of this round trip. And this is one of my favorite ones. You use the controller. You record all the character animation onto a timeline. So like turning left, right, whatever. You take that back into Maya, maybe clean it up. Then you run a cloth simulation on it. You export that as Alembic. You bring it back in, and you've now got beautiful animations, physics, hair, cloth, and that's how you do your cutscene trailers. So we want to tell stories. We want you to tell stories like that, like those kind of round trips. So soon, 2017-3. Hi.
Anytime you go on Twitch and watch a new VR game, and the camera's being controlled by the headset,
Yep.
you end up with something that's almost unwatchable. I was wondering if you could give recommendations for how to control the camera for a third-party observer in a VR game.
So in Unity right now, you can build a solution to that. You saw a little bit with the clear shot. What I'm working on right now, and it's kind of a quiet project, and I'm on camera and in front of a bunch of people with a microphone, and I'm going to say this, is we're working on the tools for movie-like procedural content from esports games while they're happening. Esports are amazing. It's not always amazing to watch from the player's camera. So what if you watched a movie of an esport while it was happening? You can actually do it right now. And we have this thing at Unity. It's super cool. It's called Hack Week. And for a week, we all go to this one place and we hack on different projects and like stay up to like 3 in the morning every night. It's like completely insane. And that was our hack week. That was my hack week. We had a small team. So the news is you can actually do it in Unity right now. What we're building is a way to make it sort of packaged up and easy. Because, I mean, esports aren't going anywhere. They're huge. But they're not really, I mean, it's a bit frenetic to watch from the player's camera all the time. So watch the movie of it instead. Hi.
Hey, so at the beginning you sort of mentioned VR applications.
Yeah.
So, like, with VR there's less room for cinematography and camera control. So I guess I was wondering if you found applications of Cinemachine to VR at all?
Yeah, it's a really good question. You know, VR is a story of space, right? And the camera is, you know, from spine up or, you know, if you're using a Vive or whatever, it's in the room. But what if you don't have VR, but you want to participate in a VR experience? So let's say there's this really cool VR experience and maybe multiple people are playing together and you just have your phone. So kind of building on what we just chatted about is the ability to create content for a screen from a VR experience and do that procedurally and automate that. So, I mean, it's not VR, but it's letting people who don't have VR equipment into the space to enjoy it. And you can just say, follow this guy, go to that shot, wide shot. You're always guaranteed a good shot. And we give you the tools so people can consume VR experiences with, you know, non-VR things. A little bit more directly to your question, you know, when you move a camera in VR that wasn't instigated by the user, puke fest starts pretty quick. So I've been playing around with Cinemachine and VR, and the reason why I think that there's an angle there is because we've spent so long on the math to get Cinemachine super buttery and smooth. Like, it's pretty sophisticated under the hood how that's working. And Cinemachine is just an animation system when you get down to it. So could we not use that to maybe move your POV around, but it has to be player instigated? And then you just basically put the whole VR rig on top of the camera, and then you use the super gooey soft math to move you around. And that works, but you know, I need to spend more time on it, because if you don't instigate it, it's like when your brain sees you moving but doesn't feel you moving, there's a disconnect and blah, right? So, I mean, that's what happens, right? Like two systems, so it's like, well, that's, so I think those are the two approaches that we have. Anybody else? Oh, hey, sorry, hi.
Will this all build out to WebGL?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it's super light, like Cinemachine's super light. There's the two most expensive components are the shot evaluation, because we have to do a raycast. So there's a little bit of a cost there. And then the Dolly Track, the auto dolly, because we have to check the player and try to find the shortest distance and move them along the Dolly Track. But it's still super light. So it works on everything on mobile. And it'll go, like, if it works on WebGL, adding this stuff to it isn't going to be a worry. Like, it's extremely light because they're not real cameras. Oh, that's something I actually should have mentioned. Just really quickly, all these different cameras that I'm showing you, they're not actually cameras. They're virtual cameras, like this guy right here. And this is how it works. Like, just really quick, this Cinemachine little logo, this virtual camera, has camera stuff in it, but it's not actually a camera. It's not a Unity camera. And what we do is, on the main camera, there's just the one main camera, which is the real Unity camera. We add this little thing here. See, it's called the Cinemachine brain. This is where all the mojo happens. This is all the blending. Excuse me. This is where we do all the math. And basically, we just marionette the main camera. So there's only one camera in the scene. All the Cinemachine stuff just drives the main camera. And we do some stuff like, you might you might animate things in fixed update or late update, and then you can get some jitter because Unity's got a couple of clocks. And I mean, some of you won't know what this is about, and others will be like, yeah, I know that. So we have this mode called Smart Mode, where we actually look at how the thing is animated, determine what clock it's on, and then Smart Update will switch to the camera to be using the same clock as what you're animating just for that camera. So keep the jitters out. Did that answer your question? Okay. Hi. Oh, I saw you first. Even though technically your hand went up first, I pointed in that direction. So, but you're next.
Maybe this is related to the esports, but for after your game is published,
Yeah.
is it possible to have the Cinemachine tools for people that do machinima movies and animations?
Yeah, I mean, that's something that's just so cool. Like, we would like people to be able to, tell those stories and like use this for like animated comic books and all that stuff. Like right now, it lives only in Unity, but you can obviously use it in a number of different ways. But the Cinemachine system only exists in Unity, if I'm understanding your question correctly. Yeah, I mean, before I was part of Unity, I built this thing. Unity acquired it, and I was looking at doing a Maya plugin because, I mean, why can't you just do this stuff in Maya? And then we might even do a Unity camera plugin for Maya. That's something that we're discussing, but it's like not on the roadmap. But the idea of not forward animating, it's like inverse kinematics for cameras. The idea of just saying, hey, look at this guy and have this kind of noise on it, and these compositional controls. That's a powerful idea that I think, well, it's only in Unity right now, so that's where you get it. But it would be cool to have it in Maya as well.
Using this towards lighting?
No, that's an interesting idea. Something we didn't get into was like, there's a really big priority system in here, so you could build state machines, so you can choose the right camera under really variable scenarios. And I mean, there's maybe some lighting aspects to that. But mainly it's a camera. It's a camera tool. But we've seen people like the Dolly Track. We see people animating stuff with that, and they don't put their camera on it. They're just using it because it's like, oh, cool, there's a Dolly Track. I mean, you can do whatever you want after. It's up to you. But that's some sort of atypical uses. But I'll think some more about how the lighting aspect could work. Yo.
Beautiful. Thank you for that presentation. Thank you for everything all this does. I mean, how did you do this the old-fashioned way back in the day, and how far it's come? Absolutely magical. I want to touch on the top secret project you mentioned about the
Not so secret anymore.
games, right? So, but think about now you're creating tools, right, for games,
Yeah.
for other applications, and obviously you see a use case, a need for in e-games like the instant replay, right? The
Yeah.
kill. Awesome. So, what other use cases? What kind of holes do you see in the games or visual space that you think this could address, or other projects will be addressing in the future?
Okay, that's an awesome question. It's a huge question. Number one is for small teams to punch way above their weight with presentation. So I worked on Need for Speed a number of years ago. We had like 6 people in our camera department. Like, that's crazy. And like, yeah, it's EA, it's Need for Speed. Not everybody can afford that. So let's take, a small team of 10 people or whatever the size, smaller. These tools allow you to punch way above your weight and to present your game at the level of, you know, much larger studios, because you can just, well, you see how fast it is to make that stuff. So that's like my number one. Get people making great content, smaller teams. The esports is something that I'm really passionately looking at. VR for non-VR, so you want to participate in a VR experience. And I know the magic's kind of gone because the VR is all about the immersion, but like there's going to be a lot of shared VR experiences, and I don't think, you know, not having an expensive headset should be a barrier to entry to at least kind of participate in those experiences. So this is something for that. And like long term, I want to do fully procedural cinematography. Like, we're making a lot of content. Every one of you has a phone in your pocket. We're out taking pictures. There's like videos everywhere. There's a sea of mediocrity, right? And I'm not picking on, you know what I mean? Like, there's just like, there's a lot of mediocre content out there. Right.
7% of everything is crap.
Right. I mean, so what if we could like look into all of this stuff, and what if we can curate this content? What if there's a game that's happening and I want to drop in and I want a really fast-paced edit of this game, or I want to follow that player, or I want to direct how I'm consuming this experience? Like, that's where this stuff's going. I mean, you can start to do that now, and we're going to keep going. And that's a really exciting place, I think, because there's going to be more and more content. But how do you get the content tailored to what you want? So, like, yeah. Oh, thank you. That's really nice. Are we done? I got the, thank you guys for coming. Thank you so much.